Hey there. So here is our next slide set. I'm going to just do section by section so we don't have that like part one, part two thing we had last time. All right. So chapter 7 is about cells. We're going to start small and we're going to build our way up. It makes sense to me. Hopefully it makes sense to you. Okay. So the cell, basic unit of living things. First discovered in the 1600s by two people. Two people are kind of the godfathers of the cell, if you will. Antoine von Leeuwenhoek. Say Antoine von Leeuwenhoek. Hopefully you did. He made one of the first microscopes in the 1600s, middle of the 1600s, and basically studied everything he could. He put everything he could see under that first microscope to see what it looked like. And one of the main important things he put under there was pond water. And if you've ever been swimming in a pond and you didn't know it was full of single-celled organisms, think how gross that is. Right? But he saw them for the first time. He discovered microorganisms. Okay? Before that, people did not know there were organisms smaller than flies, smaller than things we could see with our naked eye. And that, really tiny, that was the smallest thing. Okay? Now, there were organisms even smaller than that. He called them animalcules. Okay? They're tiny. Okay? Another person that was important in the discovery of cells was Robert Hooke. Okay? Robert Hooke looked at cork. Okay? And cork is a plant, and plants have cell walls. So really what he saw was all the little boxes of the cell walls. He called them cells because they looked like the little rooms that monks lived in. Lo and behold, that name stuck, and now we call them cells, and he coined the term. It's kind of cool. Okay? So Robert Hooke, though, he thought that only plants were made of cells because they had cell walls and he could see them. Okay? It wasn't until Antoine von Leeuwenhoek discovered microorganisms and then looked at human blood and saw that that had cells that they realized that everything was made of cells. Okay? So here is cell theory. Very big, very important, huge, gonna be on the test. These three things. All living things are composed of cells. Okay? If it's alive, it has cells. That was one of our characteristics of life. Okay? The cell is the basic unit of structure and function in living things. So it is the smallest thing that is alive and does the function that it needs to do. Okay? Cells are the basic unit of structure and function of all living things. And new cells come from pre-existing cells. So if I want new cells, I've got to have my old cells reproduce. How I get new cells. This is actually a picture of the cork that Hooke looked at, and you can see all the little cell walls in there. All of those are cells. Nice. Hey. Some basics about cells. Next section will be on organelles, but all cells basically share these things. Okay, they're tiny. Most cells are between 5 and 50 micrometers. And if you remember, micrometer is 10 to the negative 9, that's nano. 10 to the negative 6, this is a micrometer. And a micrometer is 1,000 times smaller than a millimeter. Okay? So they're really, really tiny. There are some anomalies. There are some that are as small as 0.2 micrometers, some that are 1,000 micrometers. There's an amoeba that you can actually see with your naked eye, but they're few and far between the cells that are outside that range. Okay? All cells have a cell membrane, this outside flexible part that differentiates a cell from the outside world. Otherwise, it'd just be a pile of junk. Now it's a sack of junk. And so that membrane keeps things in and keeps things from leaving and controls what goes in. It's vitally important. Most cells have a cell wall. This is a picture of an animal cell. They are basically the only cells that don't have a cell wall. Bacteria, archaea, fungi, plants, they all have cell walls. Animals, not so much. But most cells have a cell wall. Most cells have a nucleus. All eukaryotes have a nucleus. Right? Prokaryotes don't have a nucleus, but they still have DNA. They still have genetic material floating around the cell. You gotta have that DNA to control the cell. And every cell has a cytoplasm. Okay? The cytoplasm is everything else in the cell. Most people think of it as just the liquid, but it really includes all of the organelles and everything outside of the nucleus. And that is the cytoplasm. Very important part of the cell. Okay? Prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. I said there were some differences in that previous slide. Well, here's the main differences. Prokaryotes don't have a nucleus. So here you have a eukaryote with a nucleus, DNA in there. Here you have a prokaryote, no nucleus, just the DNA wound inside itself, and no special protection. They're also smaller, and they're about 10 times smaller, and simpler. They don't have all the organelles. They have ribosomes. This is a plastid. It's another section of DNA. They don't have any of these really big organelles. Okay? They got ribosomes and that's it. Okay? They're very simple, but they do have a cell wall, and lots of times they have a flagellum for propulsion. Eukaryotes, on the other hand, eukaryotes have a nucleus. They have organelles, all the little mini organs that perform certain tasks. And they make up multicellular organisms. So prokaryotes, these guys here, never link together and live cooperatively. Eukaryotic cells, these cells, plant cells, fungi cells, they can link together and create me, you, the tree in your yard, the grass, the birds, and everything that is alive and multicellular, everything you can see with your naked eye except for that one weird cell. Those are made of multicellular organisms. Those are made of eukaryotic cells. Okay? So prokaryotes and eukaryotes are very important. One note, prokaryote is kind of a bad category because it's a category based on what it doesn't have. There's actually two groups of prokaryotes, archaea and bacteria. We'll talk about those a lot more in further sections. But the eukaryotes are all the same. The prokaryotes, not entirely. All right, thank you. That's all I had today. Stop there so the next section won't be broken into two.